Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So this is the second time I'm shooting it. This is going to be a pretty special review, so I know there's going to be some jokes because I'm going to go on for quite a while before you even get a chance to actually see the actual piece. But this requires, I think, quite a little bit of introduction and background on why this is so special. So this is going to be a partial unboxing, partial assembly, and then partial review, of course, of Weta's Masters Collection #2, Treebeard, the Ent from The Lord of the Rings. And it's quite special. I'm looking at it right now, actually. It's quite special because this is basically going to be the first review of this piece on YouTube since its release almost 6 years ago, like 5.5 years ago. To the best of my knowledge, there's been, of course, the unofficial unboxing assembly video from Weta, and that's like a couple of minutes. And then there's just been a few shorts, like YouTube shorts, and another couple of videos, like a minute or two, without any type of extensive discussion on YouTube. And so there's exactly 333 of these made, and there's a lot of history behind it, both good and bad. And I guess when you consider the fact that there's only 333 out there, not that many of the owners apparently of the 333 are in a position to make a YouTube video of it. And as I've delved more deeply into the history of this piece, I wonder how many of those 333 have even been opened. There's a shocking number that even 5+ years later are still sealed in their box. So let's start talking about this. And later on, I will put in a, what do you call that? Not a bookmark, but a time stamp. So you can skip all of this preamble if you want to just get directly to the visual stuff and the unboxing and all of that other stuff. So the background is that this is the second release in the Weta Masters Collection. The first was of Gollum, and that was quite a controversial and disappointing piece. The reason for this is because Weta, who has always been a little bit overpriced, actually, in my opinion, decided to create a Masters Collection where they can experiment, they can create, really, really high quality pieces and utilize techniques that they normally, say wouldn't be able to do because it wouldn't be practical, it would be too expensive. And their first piece was Gollum, which is sort of an interesting choice. He's, of course, an integral character in both in the books and, of course, the Lord of the Rings trilogy movie. But he's not a particularly, popular character. He's a little bit unpleasant. There's very few people who are just huge Gollum fans. And so they decided to make him the subject of the inaugural Masters Collection release, which was a little bit shaky. On top of that, they made him just sort of a regular sized scaled statue, I believe 1/6 scale. And a lot of what they were trying to do was more the production. They were using different materials, maybe translucent resin or real hair and glass eyes. But they placed a premium price tag on that Gollum. It was well over $1,000. And people just simply were not interested, regardless of the technique. And you'll have, of course, some hardcore fans who bought it and who do appreciate all the different layering and the different techniques and the different things that Weta brought to the table with Gollum. But it was kind of a resounding thud, and it definitely not the way you wanted to start a so-called Masters Collection series. And so, Weta apparently learned from this mistake. And for their second release, they kind of went above and beyond. They went basically, insane. And they gave us essentially the most ambitious statue in the entire line. All these years later, it's still sort of like a mind-blowing decision that they decided to do this. They gave us Treebeard, the Ent. Now, Before this, the closest thing to like a real Treebeard collectible was way back in the sideshow Weta days, when we had the biggest bust. It was I think neck and neck with the Gollum life size, but it was the Treebeard, I think quarter scale. I believe it was the Treebeard quarter scale bust from sideshow Weta, and that was already, like, in my opinion, probably the crown jewel of the bust collection. And that was the closest thing we ever had to a Treebeard collectible. So the idea of giving us like a Treebeard statue, like the whole thing, just seemed quite frankly absurd. But they did it, and they released it in San Diego Comic-Con to a lot of fanfare. It was pretty insane, and I think it was probably released in 2017, 18. So the price at the time was just astronomical. It was, I think, in the mid twos, like $2,500, $2,400. At that time, one of the most expensive collectibles ever. But when they showcased, when they showcased the statue in all his glory, with all those branches, walking with Merry and Pippin on his shoulder, like right out of the movie, it was just basically staggering. So there was a lot of excitement. And the statue apparently, sold out in less than an hour on the Weta site. Again, limited to 333. And I, at the time, 2018, 6-7 years ago, I just felt that there was just no way I could, justify both the price tag as well as the size of it. So I just regretfully gave it up. It didn't feel really practical for me, so I just passed on it. But since I got the opportunity to buy it again, I've been doing a lot of research. So apparently, to fill in the blanks in the story, for those of you who are interested in the story, it sold out in less than an hour, and then pretty quickly thereafter from the resellers. And then probably around April to May of 2019, the statue began to ship to collectors around the world. And one of the biggest collection of international collectors of Lord of the Rings and Weta is on a forum called the Flame of Udun. And this is a regular forum, not a Facebook page or whatever. And a lot of the members there, started getting the statue. And while there was obviously a lot of excitement, because this is definitely one of the best statues that Weta has ever produced, there was also a lot of consternation. And the reason was that there were some problems that began to crop up when they took delivery. Now, it's important at this point to remember that back in 2019, which means that the statue was probably in production for years before then, this was, I think, predating maybe it was predating definitely Queen Studios, predating Infinity Studios, predating J&D, maybe even predating Prime 1. And so this is still kind of in the time of statue factory production, and Weta is especially sort of more stuck in the resin polystone side of things. They're a little bit more behind in terms of what they're creating. They're not really cutting edge, if necessarily. There's no hand punched hair or silicone or anything like that. They're still basically sort of a more refined, more ambitious version of Sideshow from the Sideshow Weta days. And so I have no doubt they were still probably using the same type of factories, and the factories were kind of providing the same type of services. And there's some significant problems with that, because when the statues came, it came with a certain litany of problems. And I'll give you the highlights of the problems. So the first one immediately that people began to notice was that Treebeard's left eye was externally rotated. And so it looked like he basically had, googly eyes, like, one eye is looking straight on at you, but the other one is like literally off to the left and rotated. There's some, debate about exactly how that happened. To some extent, it's present in almost all of them, in my opinion. Some worse than others. There's some question about maybe the statue being set on the side, perhaps, before the glue had completely dried. And over time, maybe the eye began to slowly drift. A lot of odd sort of, theories about how that happened. Eventually, they did talk to one of the, I guess, the senior production, supervisors, who stated that the eye was actually, fixed on the inside. And this was the reason given for why it can't be easily replaced. That once, you have it, it's not a simple matter of, for instance, softening the glue, trying to manually move the eye back. It's fixed in a position. And so the only way to really take care of it would be to, you have to make an entirely new bust. So that was the first and, kind of the most serious problem with Treebeard. And then the second major problem was that of fit. Apparently there were some very poorly fitting parts. Treebeard's left arm had a hard time going in. Mary had a hard time getting fit in there. Pippin especially had a very, very hard time fitting in as well. Sometimes it had to do with the resin flash not being cleaned properly. Other times it had to do with the actual pin, the metal pin not properly being sized. So, there were, things obvious of that nature. The base in some were very badly warped. And so when you put it on a flat surface, it was still kind of wobble back and forth. And then there was the usual, litany of quality control issues, occasional breaks, the statue. He came with 5 bags of plastic leaves that you're supposed to insert in a shape. And then one gentleman actually didn't get one of the bags, had another bag duplicated. So there was a lot of problems. And you can imagine that for 2,500 plus, and depending on where you live in the world, with shipping and custom import fees and conversion and VAT in Europe, it could go well over 3,000. And so there was just a lot of unhappiness. And when you consider that the first Masters collection released from Weta was already kind of controversial, not very popular, and then you have this next one, which is actually pretty incredible and is a crown jewel, but that has such production quality control issues that there was just a bit of an uproar. So there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of details in the Flame of Voodoo and Treebeard thread that I read. And so at the end of the day, the decision was made by Weta to, suck it up and essentially take all of the old Treebeards back. And in a pretty unprecedented move when it comes to, kind of the financial ramifications, they decided to actually replace completely all of the Treebeards that the customers were unhappy with, regardless of whether it was a direct purchase from Weta or through a distributor. So normally when there's a problem, companies try to, just in the interest of practicality and for the financials, they try to just replace the problem. So they'll sometimes give you, like, if your eye's bad, they just give you the bust where the eye is. If the arm doesn't fit, they give you another arm. If Mary doesn't fit, they'll give you another Mary, etc. They try to basically compartmentalize the problem. But in this case, when I took the unprecedented step of just simply creating the entire thing again, essentially they're going to take back the Treebeard that's defective and then make you an entirely new Treebeard. Another thing that's kind of interesting is that a lot of statues that are in production will have like 5 to 10% set aside to be returned in the event of breakage. This is very common practice for statue production, and it doesn't appear that Weta did that. Perhaps because of the complexity and the cost of these Masters collection pieces, especially the size of Treebeard, they didn't do that. They just made, their full allocation of 333, and so when they took the step, excuse me, of still kind of recovering from a cold. So when they took the step of actually replacing, they had to actually make them all again. So all these details were going on about 6 years ago, and we've learned a lot since then. So at the end of the day, they decided to go back and do that. And then they did something very interesting. If you want to think logically, what you should do is you create the new Treebeard, you engage with the unhappy customers, and you just tell them, well, what number do you have? The communication is there, and they just create the new Treebeard, put the new number underneath, and then you send the new one out, and you get the old one back, and you destroy them, right? That's the logical way of doing it. For some completely unknown reason, Weta decided against that. Now, the reason that this was more logical is because then, the collector keeps the number. If you got number 19, for instance, they give you a 19, you ship your old bad number 19 back, and you're good to go. But they decided not to do that. They decided instead to designate the new AP an artist proof, and they numbered it as well, so that it would prevent, for instance, future recasts or things like that. And then it got horribly complicated, because that means that remember that this statue actually also comes with a certificate of authenticity that's signed by multiple people. The people involved in the design of Treebeard, from Sir Richard Taylor all the way to Alan Lee and the sculptor, and it also came with a kind of a beautiful little art print, also numbered and signed by Alan Lee. If you change the number now into an artist proof, you would have to reprint all of those things, and then you would have to get the principals to sign all of them again. It just kind of boggles the mind who in Weta's higher, circles of leadership decided this was the preferable thing to do, instead of just simply putting a number on the base. I mean, you're not doing, even if you did this for all 333 Treebeards, it wouldn't be that big a deal. There's only 333 of them, but not all of them are defective to the point where people complained. And so, as it turned out, we found out after the fact, when the replacement Treebeards, which were now called artist proofs, began to ship, that they made 30 of them. Okay, 30 of them. And the reason is because on the shipping box it said AP 3 out of 30. So that has a lot of implications. That means that the assumption, I mean, it's not a given, but it's a fair assumption, was that if they made 30 artist proofs, they must have replaced 30 Treebeards, and out of the original run of 333, that means 10% of people were not satisfied with the position of their Treebeard's eyes, or with some other quality control issues, with the fit, for instance, that they had to replace the entire thing. That's a significant number with problems. And now you have to remember to take into account that there's going to be further Treebeards where either the collector didn't care, or was not observant enough, or, as is the case that we're learning now, simply never opened their boxes for whatever reason. So it could be well more than 10%. I think 15 to 20% even is absolutely possible. 20% maybe on the higher end, 15% probably more, more likely. But at the end of the day, that was how many was replaced. And then the story doesn't end there, because when the artist proofs were opened, there was a certain subsection of those that continued to have problems. The eyes continued to be rotated inappropriately, and this time there were significant problems with the base. Very poor finished bases, globs of glue on the base, unevenness, the actual details of the stone on the base, not being pushed down enough. So, unfortunately, at that point, there was now a certain subsection of people who needed to have a third Treebeard. They had the first Treebeard issues, the second unacceptable, and now you needed to make a third round of artist proofs. And now, instead of being designated 1 to 30, these were now designated by the letter. And I believe there was like a letter K. So, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. There was at least 11. And I believe, with later knowledge, on the ballpark of 10 to 15 of the original 30 APs had to be subsequently replaced. So this is a scenario that's almost unprecedented when you have something supposedly so high-end, so expensive, so exclusive, a master's collection piece, and with such poor quality control that you needed not one but 2 separate rounds of replacements on how to make the statue from scratch and then ship them. The cost and the logistics is just astronomical, and it's just insane to think about. And this all took time, and of course, back in 2019, right about that time was when you had the pandemic start, which also threw a wrench into production across the world. And we had scenarios where, there was a few collectors, probably 15 out of the original 333, that waited well over 4 years from the time they put money down to pre-order to finally getting their Treebeard, which, I don't know what much to say about that, but that's epic in all the wrong ways. It was actually, early to mid 2021 before the final lettered APs finally got to the collectors. And there, even more strangeness ensued. There was already, obviously a quality control check at the factory, but Weta decided, because this was a second round of artist proofs, that they wanted to take no chances. And so upon entry into the local distributor warehouse, whether it's in Europe or the United States, they decided to have the distributors then open the Treebeards and assemble them before, professionally packing them and then moving them on to the collectors. Now there's only 15 of them, and so probably this was reasonable to do, but just another tremendous amount of labor. And then, you have to ask yourself, from the initial situation where they had already been supposedly fit and then packaged at the Chinese factory. Now you have to take them apart, assemble again, and then disassemble again, and then repackage, and then send to the collector, who supposedly is going to assemble again. As somebody who has just assembled it, I can tell you that that's not an easy thing to do, and there is a danger of damage to Treebeard every time you do the assembly and disassembly process. A very, very odd step to take, and that delayed even more. So finally, after all those years, for some collectors, 2 years since they got the original defective Treebeard, the final batch was received. So as you can see, this piece, despite its sort of phenomenal stature in terms of a benchmark in quality and ambition, the actual production itself was essentially just riddled with drama and with problems, probably more than any statue I can remember from recent memory with this type of problem, especially at this price point. I mean, you have stupid stuff happen with maybe $500 statues. There was a couple maybe from the Street Fighter line that was bad. I mean, you hear about these. No statue is immune from it, but not typically with a statue in the high 2,000 MSRP range, of which they only made 333, called it the Masters Collection. It's really kind of a bit of a black eye for Weta, and hopefully, I don't know that they learned. Hopefully they learned a little bit from this, and they have better factory quality control, because it's just kind of ridiculous when you think about it. So that's the background on Treebeard, okay? And so how this, what the implications of this is for someone like myself is that, the value of the statue has just basically gone through the roof since then, of course, because again, the vast majority of people who own these are never going to let them go because of all the trouble they went through. There's only 333 to begin with. So usually these things are going to go from anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 on the secondary market. So it's more than triple in value. And when you ship it, it comes in 2 very large, heavy boxes. So shipping it is going to typically cost $500+ as well, especially with the new shipping fees post-pandemic. So it's very, very difficult to get one of these pieces for even a semi-reasonable price point. And every year that passes, the price point does get more and more expensive. Because, say it finds its way to a collector like myself who's never going to sell it, then that's one piece that's forever taken off the market. So then on top of that, you're trying to find the right piece, right? And now the only ones that are floating out there are all sealed in box. These are, these are statues that's never been opened before, which normally would be sort of a big selling point. There's always that risk for any statue that if it's sealed in a box, you open it, there could be a small break, and then you're kind of out of luck, because usually by that time, it's been years later, the company doesn't even have anything they can do to help you. But for Treebeard, after listening to the drama that I've discussed for the past 20-25 minutes, you can understand that sealed in box becomes less of a selling point and more of a source of stress and worry, because by the sheer numbers, for a fact that there's a minimum 10 to 15% that's defective, 10% already opened, who knows what more is out there. And some of the problems are pretty significant. And so I was able to get one sealing box. By a minor miracle, it was actually local. It was about 90 minutes away in Carlsbad. I live in Southern California. So, I actually drove there, and then paid a Zelle transfer so that, he didn't have to pay fees, I didn't have to pay taxes. Things are a lot more complicated on eBay these days where both sides lose. And of course, you didn't have to worry about the shipping. And so my heart was in my mouth when I got this thing home, opening it, looking for damage, and then trying to make sure that everything fit properly. And luckily they did. That's why I made this second video. My first 25-minute video, I had made it detailing all of this history, but I hadn't opened the box yet. So I was like significantly stressed out and worried. For those of you wondering, I spent $6,750 on this piece, which is reasonable. It's not the best price I could have gotten, but it's definitely not the worst. And again, I didn't have to deal with shipping. And the only reason I bought that was because I managed to sell a separate statue that I had gotten lucky on, and I had bought that statue for like the $2,000 neighborhood. And I managed to flip that just a few months ago for $7,000. And so in essence, I had traded that statue for the Treebeard. That one was a custom statue of the Silver Surfer coming out of the black hole. It's the original one. And why dearly loved it, and I made a review of it. I decided the time was right to let it go for that price. And so in a way, it was an even swap, right? Because collectors who, I probably did a little bit better because I don't think that Silver Surfer I don't think I spent more than about $2,000, maybe definitely less than $2,500, but I think it was probably like $2,100 all said and done shipping from China. And so I flipped the $2,100 for $7,000, and then for Treebeard, of course, it's MSRP, including shipping and taxes, would have been close to $3,000, and then this was sold for $6,750. So as it turned out, I kind of came out a little bit ahead in terms of using the money from the Silver Surfer for Treebeard. And Treebeard is a bit more special to me, than Silver Surfer, because I'm such a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and this is arguably one of the ultimate Lord of the Rings collectibles. So that's how I, came around to do this. So that's the end of the introduction. It's about 30 minutes. I'm going to follow that up by just cutting from all my little tiny clips where I actually opened the box, opened the color box, took a look at the art print, the certificate of authenticity. So I'm going to splice all of that to the end of this video. And then after that, I'm going to go, directly into the review of Treebeard. I made 2 other videos separate from this one, which is more technical. It's more about kind of documenting where all of the small leaves go. Those are really, really easy to mess up. There's so many of them. So I made a separate video just sort of documenting where all of the colored paper that denotes where you're supposed to put the leaves go, and then where the leaves go in real time. And then I made another shorter video about how to properly warm and heat and then, sort of manipulate the leaves. So rather than going through there, I'm just gonna go directly into a short discussion of the assembly of the statue and then the review itself. So I'll see you after the break. All right, so this is it. This is the box where the base is. This is the box where all of the different parts are. So I think that's the box where there's the base, and I think his head. So that's what we're gonna open up first. So that's gonna be step 1. Let's hope it even gets past step 1, which is that the base isn't messed up, and let's see if the base even wobbles or not. There's a very good chance, by the way, probably about 50-50 whether the base is going to wobble. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm already a little bit out of breath. That took a lot to lift this out of this. Okay, but the corners are protected by this foam. Although again, you can still see there's a lot of damage from the sides here, even with the protection. You can see the Weta logo. And then simple, the Lord of the Rings Treebeard, crafted by Weta Workshop. Okay, so This is kind of like the normal simple black color box. All right, let me open it up and see what we see here. Okay, so that was difficult, super heavy. I had to take this all out of the color box, put it to the side. This is still very old school packaging. No Velcro straps, just tape. You can see the large base right over here. Treebeard, number 81 out of 333. And the way they have it packaged, the base is basically locked in here. There's all this like old styrofoam all over the place. You can see the branches here and here. So the branches actually curve outside the base. You know, very easy for this to snap off if you put it in wrong. And this feels really heavy. And then somehow in the middle, I don't know how this is gonna sit, you have the Treebeard head itself. You can see the stickers already. So we're going to take a look at the stickers and the color here, as well as here and here. And let's see if there's anything more on the sides. I don't know where the stickers are. They'll have to take some photos. But it's a little bit weird. But okay. Yeah, see there's some stickers here as well. So first up, let's take a look at the eyes. Okay, it looks like his eyes are looking straight at me. So that seems okay. The base seems okay. All right, I'm gonna put the base inside and then let's see what the next steps are. Okay guys, so here goes. This is, so basically the first box, or the second one, depending on what you want to say, is the base and the head. And this is the way it looks. This thing was like, you know, over it and all that stuff. You can actually see it here. Okay, so far from what I see, I think those are reasonably looking eyes. No obvious breaks. Let's get the space out to make sure. Okay, so this is the base. There is a little bit of give right here. You can see that as I push here, it'll go back and forth a little bit. But this is like a huge base, and so I'm okay with this. Like, and I understand that why this would kind of move back and forth a little bit because it's so huge. But there's no breaks. And there's another sticker here, another sticker here on the inside. I don't know what that's all about because, I mean, that's where everything's supposed to go. So I'm a little bit unclear exactly what's going on there, but moving along. Here, this is just a little bit of, so this is the legs attached to the base. This base is extremely heavy and it feels very sturdy. So again, if you press here, there's nothing going on. There's no movement. So it's just here a little bit that you have. And that could just very well be that the bottoms, the soft foam is a little bit uneven. But I'm definitely, you know, happy with the base. No damage on the base. A little bit of give back and forth, not a problem. All right, let's go for the big box. But here again, we have 1 and 2 right here. I want to try to match it up with the Flame of Voodoo pictures to see if they all line up as well. The only bad thing is because of this situation, there's nowhere safe to put the head actually until you get the other bodies open up. Okay, I have him on a turnstile now. So pretty evenly distributed in the weight. Just kind of going back and forth. So from my understanding, getting the legs on here is going to be not the simplest. But okay, whatever. We're going back and forth. We're going to take a look at the base. Just rotating it. Making sure there's nothing crazy going on here. All right, very good. Okay, so this is the second box, or actually box number 1 of 2. And this is the one that contains like everything else. And the inside is supposed to be a wooden box. So moment of truth here in terms of if everything is going to fit or not. Okay, so this is how the the big box comes in. It is wood, and it's actually protected by foam both above and below. So not just the corners. So they really obviously wanted to preserve the box. So the box itself is, I guess, supposed to be a pedestal, or meant to, you know, to be used perhaps to display him. But let's take a look at what's inside. Okay. So that was really, really difficult getting this thing and that off. But as you can see, this was meticulously protected because of the foam. Very nice. So this box came immaculately. I want to say it's wood, but it's definitely pretty hard material. You can see here the bottom sticker with the information here. Okay, let's open this up. Okay, so it's magnetized here. You open it up and you see here a little message from Richard Taylor. Very beautiful. Okay, and then this is the certificate of authenticity right here. Let's take a look what that shows. So this is just tape, which you can carefully unpeel. And then the first thing you see is this certificate of authenticity by Weta Workshop, Treebeard. Masters Collection, 81 of 333, signed by the sculptors, Mr. John Troy Nickel, Gary Hunt, and then Richard Taylor, co-founder. And then all of the logos, very, very nice. Beautiful, like dark. I don't even know how you describe this type of art. Like ink, dark ink of the trees of the forest. And then I think this is a concept sketch by Alan Lee. Sorry, taking it out. You see it individually numbered as well. Yep, by Alan Lee, signed by him. So very, very nice art print. So all of this had to be redone when they replaced the defective versions with the artist-proof versions. Okay, very good. So this is really nice. You grab that, you can see that there's actually hinges here and here, and it just kind of hinges right up. And you can actually again see limited edition right over here with the signatures of Mr. Nickel and Mr. Hunt, the two co-sculptors. So this thing doesn't come all the way out actually. It stops right here, and then this thing comes out. Okay, so this is the only way to get it out reasonably because it's all packed up with this, and so you have to go sit it up and then just slowly slide it out, not too heavy. Then we have to open this up, and that gets to the styrofoam on the inside. Here we go. Okay, so this is the first layer where the big pieces are. Mary, Pippin, and then it looks like these are the arms on both sides. We need to cut these, get to the second layer. Okay, so this is the bottom. Okay, so this is the bottom layer. These are the bags. I'm sure these are the bags of leaves right over here. Here's the gloves. And then this is the rock. Here's the legs on both sides. There you go. Hey everybody, welcome back after the cut. So I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the unboxing segment of this thing. I'm literally standing like 4 or 5 feet away. You can see almost my entire kitchen. You can see some of my other statues around the edge. This is kind of how ridiculous it is to see the entire thing all built. I hope this gives you some idea how absolutely massive it is. I don't know really what I can do. I might make a few more videos later on. Maybe I'll put them on a motorized turntable or something. But it's like impossible to actually show Treebeard with the landscape view in all of its entirety. It's like you just don't see much because you're so far away. And so I'm gonna have to get close, which is great for the detail work, but then you don't ever really get as good an idea of how amazing he looks from all around. So I'll try to maybe rectify that in the future when I get a motorized turntable that's capable of handling his weight. I'll try this, I'll try a portrait view, but this is a statue that's so just ridiculously overwhelming in person that it kind of defies an ability to properly do it justice on a simple like iPhone, even if it's iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is what I have. How do you actually properly shoot it? It's just a really, really big problem. But anyways, I'll do my best. So now we get to come in a little bit closer. I'm trying to shoot this on 4K, and I do shoot it on 4K, but somehow when I load it up on YouTube, it sometimes doesn't, put it on 4K. I don't know why that is. I just may simply not be, I may be ignorant of how to properly do it, so forgive me if it doesn't show up. It'll eventually show up as 1080p, but I don't know when it ever will show up as like 4K. You can see that it's so big. My black background, it's actually, taller than that. And so you're just gonna have a lot of issues trying to, get it going. So the base is actually not too bad. It's about 20 inches long by 12 to 14 inches wide. It's an oval shape. Luckily, my particular Treebeard, by a miracle, didn't have any significant problems. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but definitely didn't have any of the problems that some of the others had. So I guess you could say I got lucky to some extent. Before reviewing the statue, let's just talk a little bit about how to assemble it. So, the base actually, because this will be important for those of you guys who are ever so lucky to obtain one of these. So the base actually includes the lower leg of Treebeard all the way up to here. You can actually see the seam line if you're very careful. Here's a tree, so it's kind of cunningly hidden. But up to here, this is all part of the base in one continuity, okay? And then back here, you can see that this is where also the legs are right here, okay? So this is part of the next segment, but all of this, all the way down, and all of this is all part of the base. So you set them up by first putting the base here. And now there's 2 other pieces to put on, and those are the thighs. So here is the left thigh, all the way up to here. That's a seam line. And then over here is the right thigh, okay? From here all the way up to, and this is kind of tricky, all the way up to here. So from here all the way down to here, this whole thing, see, he's so big I can barely show you. So this whole thing from here all the way down to here is one piece. So those are the two thighs, okay? So thigh number 1 and thigh number 2. And if you put it together, you got one here, and those are the thighs, right? So the legs are part of the base, then the two thighs, and then Treebeard himself, the actual portrait and the body actually goes in here and here. So this is actually shown on the Weta assembly video that took them a few minutes, and it showed him actually sort of wriggling Treebeard onto these two thighs. But in reality, you're gonna find that to be difficult, if not impossible to do, because the resin doesn't fit exactly as it's supposed to. And you're gonna find that there's not enough give at the join down here for you to move the top two enough to get both seated together. And by the way, each of these is 5 pounds, which means that you're playing with 15 pounds of resin, and extraordinarily prone to damage, all sorts of little tiny parts jutting out. It's not the best feeling in the world, I'll tell you that. So, you know, a hack to do this properly is to actually keep one of the legs, one of the thighs, you know, put it on the leg, and then take the other thigh and actually connect it to the Treebeard body first. And if you do that, you connect at the leg down here while you connect up at the thigh up here. So hopefully that makes sense, where instead of trying to wriggle Treebeard onto both upper ends of his thigh, you actually connect one of them first. I believe the better one to do is the left. So you should connect the left one to Treebeard's body, and then try to hook up at the top of the right thigh and the bottom of the right leg. And that's what I did, and I was able to, you know, see them in and get it together. But that's definitely not a great feeling to do, and I would be a little bit, you know, frankly worried about trying to disassemble this without some help in the future. So there you have it. So once you do that, the main part of the body is basically done, and you just simply attach the right arm. You can see the seam line right there, as well as the left arm. You can see the seam line right over here. Now, a lot of people have problems with this hand, with this arm. It wouldn't go all the way in. And in this case, I was not immune from that. I did have some problems. You can see from the back here that's, you know, that there is a bit of a seam line. Now, whether I could shove it in deeper or not is harder to say. It went in pretty tight, and it went to the point where I don't feel as if this arm is going to be coming off anytime soon if I moved him. So put both arms in place, and then you have the main body essentially all built. So hopefully you're following me. It's not actually too complicated, other than trying to wriggle his torso onto the two thigh pieces. It's just basically base, right, left thigh, body, right, left arm. And you have Treebeard all ready to go. The problem lies in doing it because he's so huge and so massive and so tall and so heavy, actually. I know you're not gonna believe this, but when you look at the height of this kitchen island, I actually built him from here. So he's massively tall, and you're not gonna be doing yourself any favors if you do that. My recommendation is to definitely put him on a turntable so you can easily move him around, and then probably do it like at the lower level of this chair, which is where his box comes up to, and that gives you the height to do this much easier. If you're gonna move him, he's gonna be quite heavy. You should definitely remove both the right and the left arms and all of the little tiny magnetized branches, and that will take some weight off, so it'll be easier for you to move the actual base, and you won't actually have this fall off. There are some very small magnets, I think, from the arms. That's debatable. but the arms are so heavy that those magnets are essentially useless. There is a rock, and it does actually have a magnet that magnetizes into the hand. There was one collector who tried to move the entire Treebeard without actually taking the arms off, and in the middle of the move, both arms fell, and I think one of them broke. He had to get it replaced by Weta at the time. I don't know how strong that guy was that he was even able to move it without taking the arms off. I don't have enough strength, I don't think, to be able to even consider doing that. It's kind of an insane thing to do, but a word to the wise, you should not try that. Now, again, your mileage may differ. This arm, I feel, is a little bit maybe loose, but I didn't think so when I put it in. And this arm actually, when I shoved in, was super tight. So for my Treebeard at least, believe it or not, I really feel like both arms are seated very, very tightly. And I doubt that they would move if I were to move the whole thing. But I'm not stupid or, at this point, strong enough to even consider that. So it's not something that I need to worry about. But yeah, in general, take the rock out, take both arms off before moving him. Now, moving to the branches, there's actually 6 branches that you have to add to him, the larger branches that are made out of polystone. But they're all connected with rare earth magnets, which snaps together incredibly tightly. And there's no mistaking which one goes where. You can obviously check out the assembly video, but I think that the Weta one goes a little bit too fast. So if you look at mine, you'll be able to tell exactly where goes where. So I'll start with this branch right here. So just take a look. You can see from all different angles. So this is the first branch. It magnetizes in this area right here next to his beard. And that's branch number 1. It's the only one at the front, okay? Now, moving to the side and the back. Right over here, if you look really closely, you'll see a seam line right here. So this branch is the second one, and it attaches right here. That's number 2, okay? And then going to the back, this branch right here, that's number 3. It attaches all the way right here. Up top, there's a really, really tiny branch right here. That's number 4. And then the one over here, move this thing around. So it's this branch right here. If you follow it all the way down, it connects right here. So this is number 5. And then this huge branch right here, it attaches all the way down here, all the way down here. This is number 6. Okay, so there's 6 branches of varying sizes that you're going to need to snap on, and you should do that. And once you've done all of those branches, there will be 2 more branches with Mary and Pippin each, and you apply them last. Now Mary, you can clearly see there's a seam line right over there. That's where he attaches. Pippin's seam line is right back here. Hopefully you can see that. Right here, and that's where he attaches. Pippin is really difficult because he's at the top of the mountain, so to speak. It's really hard to get the angle of the rod in there. And that's where, again, the advantage comes in from doing it at a lower elevation and a lower height, okay? Believe it or not, I had to actually stand on this countertop to get enough height to get Pip finally into position. A word to the wise, at any point in your building of the Treebeard, if you happen to get one sealed in box, you could have problems attaching the arm. You could have problems attaching both Pippin and Mary. And if you do, you may have to take a trip down to Lowe's or Home Depot to get some sanding paper and even a file to gently work at the attachments to make sure that you get rid of enough of the resin and metal flash so that it actually finally fits. So I wish you guys luck. Hopefully you don't have to do that, but those are, again, very well documented issues. So just to kind of get things straight, this is Treebeard assembly part 1, okay, part 1. And what is the parts? Base, thigh on the left, thigh on the right, torso and main body, right, left, arms, and then the 6 branches, all rare earth, and then finally the branch with the Mary and Pippin. Now, once you have that, you basically have him essentially in all his glory. Oh, and of course the rock. So those are the major parts. But then you have to move into part B. And part B are these little guys. They're not made out of polystone. They're made out of plastic. And you have 5 bags of them. It comes in bags like these, okay? And it goes from small to big. And Treebeard actually comes with the different colors, okay, of paper, and they use masking tape to tape those pieces near each hole where you're going to put one of these plastic leaves, okay? And if you're doing the count, there's actually 39 of them. Now, the problem with that particular way of doing things is that oftentimes during shipment, and also when you're taking the big, huge pieces and trying to fiddle with them and trying to put them in position, again, these are not very easy to do. And so if you're struggling to get Treebeard on, you're futzing with the arm, and then you're trying to squeeze Mary and Pip into position, a lot of these little pieces of paper fall off. The masking tape is there, falls off. And then when it falls off, you're really in trouble because now you have no idea where the holes are. They're all color-coded with the different types of plastic foliage, from something as small as this one, for instance, to something as large as this, for instance. So I made a separate video, almost half an hour long, that really, really clearly shows where every single colored tape or colored paper normally sits, and then finally where every single piece of vegetation goes. So that is actually part B. Part B is putting all of those 39 pieces of plastic vegetation into position. And then after you put it into position, and I refer you again, I'll link you to the video, but it's all in the same area, but in terms of my time when I upload, but I'll link it so you can go there. But after, putting all of the right pieces of vegetation into the right holes, then you actually have to take them out and using a heat gun or blow dryer, and I definitely heavily suggest a heat gun, you then have to soften each of these plastic leaves and then bend them into something more natural, okay? So that is going to take a couple hours if you want to do it correctly, and I refer you to my other video that shows you how to properly do it with a heat gun. Now, usually I'll focus on this one here on his left elbow as an example. So this particular, branch came, and they all come as a completely flat piece of plastic, and you'll see that in my other video. And your job is to heat it up so that the plastic becomes very malleable, and your job is to twist and bend it so it becomes less, flat. And you want to introduce dimensionality, and you also want to introduce chaos and randomness. You want to mimic the idea of just little fronds and vegetation growing in odd angles off of Treebeard's body, as if it's off a real tree. And it's kind of really cool to do, but it takes a lot of time. And the reason it takes a lot of time is what you do is you're supposed to actually heat the bigger stems down here. When it gets soft and rubbery, you twist it into your position with all the little fingers, maybe both hands, and you have to hold it in position while you let the heat simmer down and cool in the air. And that takes about a minute, literally like a minute, like 60 seconds. And when it does that, the new form will begin to set. And then after it sets, you have to heat the little leaves up here, let those grow soft, futz with those, then let it cool. So it's like different rounds. It's like round after round of heating and cooling, heating and cooling. And usually after maybe the first 2 rounds, I actually put the vegetation into the hole. And then I'll actually hit the different leaves with my heat gun while it's on Treebeard, and then I'll gently move it into position against the tree in the different angles that I find pleasing. I'll have to hold it there like in midair like this for like, a minute until it sets, and I'll gently take my hands off. So doing it that way, I think, gives it the best look, but it also absolutely takes forever, to do. But that's kind of how I do it. So you're going to be able to, if you want to, you can look at my other video, the 30-minute one, and it'll show you where all the vegetation looks untouched, and you'll see the flat geometry and how bad in a way it looks. I mean, Treebeard, of course, will always look amazing, but these little pieces of plastic vegetation is really kind of what gives him his character, and it's like a lovely accent, to the statue. And I want you to compare what those look like in this kind of the sharp geometry, flat geometry, which is the way they came out of the bag here. And what I did after I properly, heated it up and then manipulated it. And again, that's kind of the cool thing about Treebeard, is that every single collector will have a slightly different looking Treebeard, because they're all going to shape their leaves a little bit differently. Okay. And again, I think using the hairdryer and the cold water technique, you're stuck essentially twisting it, and then you put it on the tree. Whereas with a heat gun and with a lot of patience, you're able to shape those little plastic branches in real time on Treebeard. I think that does make a big difference. So the only one I didn't touch was the tiny ones right here. You can see that this is a very tiny little bit of vegetation. This is from the blue bag labeled E, and there's only 6 of those. Okay, so I think I touched the one up here that's growing out of the tree trunk next to Mary. So you can see that this one I did actually heat up a little bit, but the other ones I didn't really. So in case you're wondering, it's the one coming out of this branch right here. This little branch. I did hit that with my heat gun, but the other ones I didn't really do because they're so small that they already have some character. They don't look unnaturally flat. So let me just kind of take you through some of the vegetation that I did. I had doubts whether I really wanted to heat this, because it's like a single frond. But I realized that no, if you heat it with a heat gun, it can still give you a lot of character. And that before heating it, it just looked too geometrically straight and normal. You can see that here I did give it some bend. I did twist it a little bit. Same thing with the one on the hand here. You can see the ones coming off of his beard on both sides. It's simple, but you can tell I did twist it. I did make it a little bit less straight. You can see the one in his, in the branch of his crown. Okay, all the way back here. You can see the small ones back here that I twisted. Look at the little one here. I definitely twisted that. And then, this one back here, I think, is another one. So again, even the small ones I twisted. Now, for sure, you definitely have to twist bags A, B, C. Okay, C is orange, smaller, and then green is A, and then yellow B is the biggest. So I'll give an example here. So check this out. You can see kind of how twisted they all are. They definitely have a lot more character. Compare this, by the way, again, with my assembly instructions video, where I show where each of these are in their holes before I melted them. Look at the geometry here, the geometry here. Look at the arms right over here. Look at how random they look. All along here, look at the shoulders. So sometimes, they'll have different size vegetation in close proximity, and you're meant to sort of entangle them and create this illusion of a whole bunch of foliage moving. So this is the big branch. It has no less than 6 different plastic vegetations in different holes 3 of the largest Bs, and then 2 As and 1 D, the pink one. So you see how, I hope you can appreciate how they all have different angles. There's no planes. I'm kind of moving it around from different angles so you can kind of see, what I did. And all of this takes time, and also not only does it take time, it requires you to put it in its hole and then heat it up and then move it. So I think that you can definitely tell, hopefully, the difference between how this vegetation looks before and after. If you compare it, you can see that it looks just a lot more natural in terms of how it sits, all the different bends. And, I could do better, like, around the area here, if you want to, depending on how anal you want to be, you could try to twist every single little distal stem and give it some more character. But overall, when you compare it to the flat geometry, I think this looks way, way better, way more natural. This is kind of what you want to see. Take a look at the foliage next to both Pippin as well as Mary. And again, just compare that to my other video, which simply shows where the branches go, but doesn't show you what you do to give them that character. There's also one supposedly come out of his butt. I'm showing you that right there. Kind of cute, but that's another one over there, okay? But this part here, by the way, this was the most difficult, this large branch. So many branches that you had to put in and twist in such close proximity. They're just like, interfering with each other. You're working on one and the other one drops out of the hole. It's just pretty frustrating, but I think the end result was definitely, hopefully, worth it. So if you want to know how long it's going to take you, if you've never done it before, and hopefully it'll be faster because you want to watch parts of this video, but it took me the better part of 2 to 2.5 hours just to get Treebeard all together, all of the branches struggling with the fits, struggling to get Mary and Pippin in position carefully without damaging him. So that took about 2 hours, and then it took another 2 hours to put all of the plastic leaves. There's 39 of them total, so it took 2 hours to put that in there. Now it took longer actually because I was video documenting. You only have one shot at this, right? Because once you put the plastic leaves in place, you take the tape off. And so, I really had to do a video of each single step because I can never, you can't go back and do it. So it took me, 2 hours, not including the video time, to get all the leaves in place. And then it took me 2 to 3 hours to then take each one out and individually heat them and bend them and then shape them, put them back on Treebeard and then shape them some more. I was still doing it actually today, this morning, before making the video tonight, doing some last minute touch-ups. And as I got better, I, realized what I was trying to go for. I went back and actually, softened it up and did some more on him. So the total time, I think, expect to set aside about 5 hours. I took over 6, but, again, the most of the time I think is going to be making sure that you put him together without damaging him, especially if there's any fit issues, and then adding that character. Now the love, by the way, how much time and love you put into shaping these plastic, vegetation, that is going to really come across in the final display when he's, when you like lean back, you look at him. Especially the back, the front, of course, is iconic because you see Pip and Mary, you see Treebeard's famous face, but the side and back, like this shot right here, man, this is where all the character is. I'm saying? Like, look at all those trees, all the different vegetation in the back. And from this angle, you really get a really, really nice view. And, not too close. I mean, hey, if you go too close, you're gonna see it's plastic, okay, you're gonna see it's plastic. But from this certain angle, it just really looks like, he's got the leaves coming off of him. It just gives you that illusion of life, right? That here's this walking tree with all of this growth around him. That's really cool. And the amount of time and attention and love you put into working those leaves is going to pay a lot of dividends at the stage where you display him. Okay, and so the cool thing is now that you know how to do it, you know how to use the heat gun, you know how to bend it, and you're kind of seeing this as an example. There's so few good examples, guys, on the internet about what it looks like. I mean, you've got obviously the prototype from Weta, and that's actually really different. And they have way more holes, way more vegetation. But we don't have anything like this from a collector, who's working with the actual production sample. So now that you have an example of how I do it, you know what to go for. You know how to let your imagination run wild. You can see what you like about mine. You can see what you don't like about mine. You can make it better. Like, look at this thing right here. This vegetation is it's from bag C, an orange. It's a little bit of a smaller branch, and you can see how I actually put it in, and I actually had it wrapped around the trunk. So I shaped it to sort of grow along the top of it. You see that? So this is the same branch as the one over here. Right here. They're the exact same branch. This is branch C, okay, orange right here. And it's the same branch as right here, behind his leg, and the same branches up here. These are all the same, but see how different this, I'm gonna look between, see how different that looks to this, and how different that looks to this, and look at how different that looks to that. But they're all the same. When you get them out of the bag, they all look exactly the same, completely flat, okay? Same thing with, again, how does this look versus this, versus, that. They're all a little bit different, a little bit twisty, and I really went to town and twisted it like crazy over here. This guy right here, I really twisted him around. See that? So there's a lot of room for creativity. They're all gonna be a little bit random. This is the big, heavy branch. Only 6 of those. They're the yellow bees. So there's one here, there's the one over here, and then there's 3 of them here that you can't even tell where one starts and where one ends. So I really, truly believe that this is kind of the fun of assembling Treebeard, and this is where the creativity comes in. This is where all of the different, variation comes in. And I really, really encourage you to use a heat gun versus a blow dryer, and to take your time and just spend the hours in there, have fun with it, put them in the hole, and then, take your time and just walk around, heat it up with a heat gun for a few seconds until it's really nice and soft and flexible, bend it into the little shape you want. Be patient, hold it there for 1 or 2 minutes until it sets. Then heat the little tips again, go from the major trunk to the finer distal tips. And little by little, you're going to, you're going to get this effect. So that's my advice as far as the assembly, okay? This is again, really, really great shot of how he looks with all this random vegetation. Now again, you want to see what he looks like before I manipulated it. And it doesn't look bad per se, because you still got the little green plastic, but just night and day. It looks very unnatural before you bend them. All right, so I'm actually going to take a little break. I still have a little bit of a cold, and I'm going to take a little bit of break before actually going into the closer details of Treebeard and talking about just everything about him. So I'll see you after the break, and we're going to stitch this bad boy together. Again, there's a certain responsibility I feel over him, because this is going to be the first really long YouTube review of Treebeard, the first one. And I think a lot of people, not now, but maybe in the next 5-10 years, people are still getting sealed in box Treebeards. There's one guy, one person on the Flame of Udun who's going to open that Treebeard for the very first time, no space, no room. They're going to be doing it, and if you're going to move, you might sell it. And for all of these things, they're going to be using these videos to help out. And so there is a little bit of responsibility in trying to do the best I can to showcase this off. It is an absolutely insane, epic piece. So I think I've done enough intro for today. 35 minutes of actually describing the assembly process, showing off the leaves, and then I'll go into the details of the statue for the next segment. So there you go. By the way, this is my eyes. So from here, that looks pretty good. But if you go super close, I'm gonna have to actually move a little bit deeper. So if you go super close, you will see that the left eye is just a little bit slightly rotated compared to the other one. Especially from this angle, if you just kind of look at that eye, you can see that eye is rotated. But luckily, if you go back and you just go from a normal distance, he looks fine. So again, that's one of the examples of sort of the problem, with that first batch. I'm fortunate enough that I feel like this eye does not look too googly to me. Looks pretty good. If you go macro view, you'll definitely see it. Okay, I'll see you guys after the cut. We'll talk a little bit more about, the context of Treebeard, and the sort of, we'll talk about the hobbits. We'll go in close and go over all the details. But this was mainly just kind of, again, talking you through the assembly, and also showcasing how important stage B of the assembly is, which is all this vegetation on the back, along the legs, along the arms, the back. So you definitely want to have a turntable displaying him. He's such a centerpiece statue, and there's, he's, like I said, he's so interesting from all sides. He's almost as interesting from the side and the back as he is from the front, because there's just an insane amount of detail everywhere you go. But there he is. There's the back of Treebeard. All right, see you after the cut. Hey everybody, welcome after the cut. It's been a couple of days. Just needed a lot of time to get myself ready for this. I'm not even sure I was going to do this review tonight, but I said, you know what, let's just go for it. This is already going to be a ridiculously long segment when it's all put together. Been working on Treebeard, honestly, for over a week. It feels like, it feels like forever, actually. But man, time really passes. It's been over a week since I got him. So basically, I've been wanting to get like a nice turntable for a while, and they're just so hard to get. I mean, I think over 10 years ago, I got these really, really cheap turntables that was like literally $10, $20 each. And it was just very cheap, very no frills. You just put them on there like a lazy Susan, just turn them around. Kind of like, this thing right here. And they would sell them in all these different sizes, like these little tiny ones about the palm of the hand, and the ones that are about a foot in diameter, and all these other sizes. It's really easy to get. Well, if you guys know a place I can get them again, I'd love to hear it, because like that has dried up. I can't find any place to just get these really, really, small plastic cheap stuff. Now they're all huge and thick, they're motorized. And for the longest time, it was really difficult just to find one that kind of fit my purposes. A lot of them, I think, are there to kind of like put mannequins on or something, like for businesses or dress shops. And so it's only recently that we have a couple of these that are like, built for collectibles, right? And built for showcasing collectibles. So it took a while to get this huge turntable in right here. This is the biggest turntable I have. It actually cost, I think, a little bit over like $100, I think, which is very expensive for just a turntable. But it motorizes. It goes through a revolution every, I think, 2 minutes. And so I had to wait for that to get in. And then, this is kind of heavy. And then I had to move Treebeard from the regular cheap turntable to this motorized one. And that was very difficult. I mean, this whole thing together is probably over 50 pounds. And it's not like a 50-pound barbell, it's an awkward 50 pounds. It's like a 50-pound Treebeard. And there are horror stories of people trying to move it, and then the arms fall off and shatter, and just all sorts of badness. We definitely do not want that for like a $7,000 collectible. Okay, we don't even want that for a $3,000 collectible, which was what happened to one of the guys on the Flame of Udun forums. That's the he tried to move it. I mean, how strong must that guy be to even try something that crazy? That just basically lift it, all the weight is basically concentrated on this base, right? Everything's just like on the base. And he must have just tried to lift it from the legs. I just can't even imagine that. That's just insane that he even tried to do that. But yeah, the arms fell and it broke, and he had to actually, I think, pay for a replacement from Weta at the time. And he was luckily even able to get a replacement because it was early on in the shipping process. So no, for me, I had to actually, do it piecemeal. I had to take the both arms off with all the sculptured, not the sculptured, but the, with all the manipulated and bent leaves in place so they didn't fall off. That was good. I had to layer them carefully aside, had to take the boulder out, and I took as many branches as I could. And I left, I think, the big branch in the back. And even then, with those arms off, it was still actually a little bit of a struggle to, move the base onto here. So I don't know what's going to happen when I finally do move him to its final resting location. It's going to be a little bit touch and go, I think, because in order for me to really move him without worry, I have to actually take Treebeard essentially apart. I have to take him off of the thighs and the thighs off the legs. That's going to be really, really a bear, especially trying to do it without breaking the thighs. And then, of course, if you do that, you're going to have to take all the leaves off because they're going to be falling all over the place. And if you take all the leaves off, you have to eventually, replace them, which is not too bad. I mean, I did memorize, essentially. I've spent so much time on this. I have basically memorized where all of the leaves go and all of that, but it's just something I'm not really looking forward to. So I have to kind of imagine what I'm going to do. But for now, he's in position finally, and I can finally begin the review. So I'm going to go down here. There's a switch right next to it. We're going to turn it on. You can see that he is gradually moving. It's all just a little bit crazy because I have him against this black backdrop that I usually use, but he's so ridiculously huge, you just can't really do it. There's just a lot of kind of interesting firsts about him. Number one, he's so tall that actually this is really hurting, I think, the product or hurting the review in a sense when I do a landscape. I mean, normally you landscape all the reviews, that's just the way it is. But here, I mean, you can't actually get all of him landscape. I have to go back so far back that you might as well just, show them entire kitchen. It's just pretty crazy. You can see my platinum Wonder Woman in the background. We have a artist-proof Daddy Rog. I've done reviews, and away in the distance I have the Dark Knight Duel that I have to get to. But it just showcases everything, because if you want to catch all of Treebeard, he's like a skyscraper. You have to stand so far back that the whole concept of a kind of a black cloth as a backdrop just becomes sort of meaningless. You also can't really see much detail because you're so far away. So for now, I guess while I talk about him, I'm just going to stand here so you get to see him just rotating around. You get to see him from a distance, and then eventually I'll kind of go a little bit deeper and try to give you some, macro shots, some close-up shots of him. Again, I do feel a little bit responsible because this is going to be, I think, the first major Treebeard YouTube video out there in probably ever, right? He's only been released for about 5.5 to 6 years. I think we're getting into 6 years now, and no one's really done an in-depth review on him, other than a couple of YouTube shorts here or there, and of course the so-called the so-called assembly video from Weta. So where to start? Well, I think that the first thing, just to sort of begin, is just the sheer ambition of Weta to do something like this. This was the second in the Masters collection, right behind Gollum. And Gollum, if you were to take the time to really review him in depth, like some have on the internet, I mean, you can appreciate definitely the stuff that they did, but it's just kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to truly love him, just because, of Gollum being who he is, such an unlikable character in a way. And, he doesn't have a lot of oomph, right? It's like, there's all these new techniques that they used for him, but he doesn't have the stature of Treebeard. So it seems like for Treebeard, again, they really decided to go for it. It's definitely the tallest sideshow Weta not sideshow. It's the tallest Weta statue that they've ever done by far. It's just immensely tall. From Pippin all the way down to the base is well over 40 inches, I believe. And so, the first thing is that they actually were crazy enough to give us the entire Treebeard statue. I remember when I got the bust from Sideshow Weta, that it was just kind of essential. It was basically accepted that the bust was as good as it's ever going to get, because the sheer thought of having a full Treebeard statue in any scale was just deemed to be completely ridiculous. And so you can imagine, here we are actually having this in the flesh. It's just sort of mind-blowing to see. And again, you get to enjoy Treebeard in a way that you don't really in the movies. And this was something I touched upon in my Sideshow Weta Balrog review, which is that when you're seeing the movie, a lot of it is like the practical effects and the special effects. You're seeing close-ups, and everything's just moving too fast, because of course they're telling a story. Whereas when you have this statue in front of you, and it's completely authentic, it's created by Weta, the people who actually made the effects for the movie and all of the practical effects, you get to finally see up close and personal all of the wonderful design elements. And I'm hoping that as you see him, just rotate from far away, this kind of panoramic view, you get this sense in totality of how awe-inspiring he is. I mean, look at my trash cans here. You get a sense of I guess you get a sense of the size of my kitchen island, which is absolutely ridiculous actually as it is. It's so huge, but you get a sense of the scale, right, of Treebeard. You get a sense of the scale of Merry and Pippin on top of him. They actually put them on him, which is just, again, so amazing, and hilarious that they did that. You would think that you just giving us Treebeard alone is enough, but again, the Masters collection had to go one up. They had to go the extra mile and give us actually the two hobbits also sitting on his shoulder right out of the two towers, with Merry kind of pointing, or no, I think Merry's pointing and Pippin kind of shielding his eyes. It's just fantastic. So just kind of enjoy taking him in from afar, almost as if you're seeing him walking through Fangorn Forest, and just sort of seeing the limbs, seeing the tree branches, seeing all the little leaves and branches growing off of him. That took me forever to bend into shape one by one, all 39 of them. Just getting an idea of sort of how he looks, as we turn him. And it just takes a lot of work to even make this happen. You have to have a turntable big enough to support him. This thing is I think slated or good for over 120, 130 pounds, which I don't think Treebeard, of course, is. But you have to find a turntable that's strong enough with a motor to actually handle that much weight and turn it. And then turn it at the right speed, not too fast, but not so slow that it becomes sort of ridiculous. So I had to put all that together. We have a little bit of background, just to kind of see how he is. In reality, I should be shooting this against maybe even like in a private room with completely, with black curtains or something. But sorry guys, this is not what I do for a living. So this is the best I could do under the circumstances to just kind of showcase him off. So number one, the pose, him walking, in mid stride. He has that huge, huge boulder in his right hand. And so that this is from the siege of Isengard, or the assault on Isengard, where all the Ents get really, really mad when they see what Saruman has done. And they're marching, and they're going to basically lay siege to the tower of Orthanc. And he's in mid-stride. The base kind of shows the granite and how the power of the roots of the trees. So the idea behind the Ents is like the strength of the roots and the strength of those trees, which usually are felt over thousands of years. They can sort of distill all that strength, all that power in seconds and minutes. And you see the roots actually just cracking through the rubble and the stone as they're walking through. So you have that big boulder there. He's in mid-stride. From a certain angle, he's almost maybe leaning a little bit over to the left. I don't know if you can see that. As you can see, as it turns. And I was a little bit worried about that, but apparently, that's just kind of the way he's built. From other angles, he seems pretty solid. But I made sure when I seated him that he was very, very secure. Everything kind of fit rock solid, at the thighs as well as at the legs. But from certain angles, as he's turning, he almost seems a little bit tilted. But yeah, there's just kind of this great sense of dynamic motion with Treebeard, as he's walking. So the first off is just an amazing sort of combination of elements, great pose, and then you have, of course, Merry and Pippin, riding on top of him, just very accurate to the movie. One of the things that really sort of catches your eye are his hands. They're like the huge branches of a tree, and one of them, of course, is cradling this gigantic rock, and the other one's just open. And that's really cool. You kind of get a sense of the size of those hands, right? And then you also see that his feet are basically these two huge tree trunks, and you also get a sense of how the shrubbery and the leaves that are growing all over him sort of add so much character to him. So that's him. And now let's get an opportunity to get a little bit closer. So here's the base. Again, you can see all of the roots that are supposed to be going through the rubble. And so it just pushes right through. Normally it would take, of course, thousands of years for a root, or maybe hundreds of years for the root to push through the rock. And here you see as he's walking, it just does it instantly. Trying to get a little bit close up, so that's not too blurry yet, but yeah, you can kind of take a look at the very, very fine detail, the texturing of the rocky base. You can see the axe split in two. So here you have the axe with the business end of it, and then further back, right over here, is the other end of the axe. So that's kind of like a little homage, or not homage, but a reference to the orcs of Isengard under Saruman's orders, chopping all those trees down. Here is his right leg. That's the back one. So again, just trying to show you some of the detail. And here you have, the sort of the wooden fence. This is the rope. It's all polystone, but it's carved and sculpted so well that you get the illusion that it's actually rope and wood. So that's really, really nice. A lot of character on the base. And then again, sort of the beautiful tree and the green over here. And now, if we just move up, there's again so much detail to take in terms of all the little fronds, all the little vegetation that's sculpted in. They just did a sort of a magnificent job doing that. So I'm going to actually stop the turntable for now, so I can sort of control it more myself. And again, just sort of show you all of it. So you can see there's a little bit of space. You can actually go through his feet if you wish. So just kind of take a look at all of the different details that they sculpted into the legs, all that vegetation, all the texturing of the bark. This is just sort of like a stunningly detailed sculpt as you work your way up. Again, there's just almost like too much detail for the eye to take in. Here's that little tiny branch that goes right where the leg joins the thigh. You can see the moss also sculpted in. Just really, really remarkable. So he has like this really, really long tree trunk legs. And then, because his strides are so big, in the center you have this big space. Like you can literally, put your hand right through it. It's like this huge space between the two, legs. Kind of give you, again, an idea of just how tall he is and, how long the strides must be, how much ground that Treebeard can cover as he's walking. Again, taking a look here at the axe and the handle, the broken handle where it goes, the wooden beam from maybe, one of the walls of Isengard. Look at the beautiful texturing of the wood. And then on the other hand, or on the other side, here's the back right leg. Again, just kind of look at all of the different details on the trunk, the different shrubbery. Here, this is kind of a very, very high risk area for breakage, both here as well as here. You can see it can easily snap off. And if the factory is not careful putting the base into the box, then the pressure of the base of the one will snap this right off. You can see here that this is actually has to be, there's a little tiny gap. But mine is not too bad. Some of them, if it's sloppily put together, the gap can be very big. But again, this is just to sort of show you how the roots are actually breaking free of the rubble, even into the base, which I think is a very nice touch. So here you go, you see more of the trunk. I love the little details of the moss, the shrubbery, the little leaves that they sculpted into the trunk, It's like it just feels like a real tree. Like, if you've ever gone to the park and seen some of these really, really beautiful old trees, that's what it reminds you of. Take a look here at all of that detail, except it's, a Treebeard. And then here, I think I did this already earlier when I showed you what the potential was. I showed you all the different leaves, but here, nice random plastic leaves coming along. Kind of again, trying to move back and then go a little bit further in so you can kind of see all of the detail, all of the texturing, where all of the leaves are being placed. There you go. Here's that big branch. This is a huge branch right here with all the different leaves. And then here's his left arm. Again, showcasing as much detail as I can. Look at the size of those hands and those fingers, those tree branches. Just doing my best to try to show as much as I can. Here's the rock, the boulder, so to speak. You can see his fingers grasping it, and they did such a beautiful job, putting it in there. the magnet holds it in, and you can barely see any space. So it really looks like he's really grabbing the rock. I mean, look at this. It's like he's basically, the tree hand is the same as my hand, actually, almost the same size. Look at the detail work on the branches. And then back here, look at all these trees, tree branches. Look at the little mushrooms. They're just kind of scattered all over the place. Some more moss. Everything just looks and feels so organic. The guy who designed this was just a genius. Absolute genius. I think, was it Daniel Falconer? I think it was him, right, who designed it. So, it's pretty amazing. Let's see if there's more mushrooms we can find. I think there was some more. I'm trying to point it out to you if I can find it myself. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Right here. You can see it now, right? There are those little mushrooms. Here's this big branch in front of him. And then of course we get to Treebeard himself. Look at that beautiful face, his beard, all the twigs and leaves in the beard. Wonderfully done. Here's his eye. So again, you can see that the left eye is just a little bit rotated toward his left, but mine is actually one of the better ones. Like if you go real close, you can definitely see it's a little bit rotated, but if you just back up a little bit, he's looking at you without too much. Like this is a nice shot. You can tell from here, which is like maybe 6-7 inches away, his eyes look fine. But there you go. This was the reason so many of them had to be redone, but mine looks pretty good. I can't complain. And then finally at the very, very top, Merry and Pip. You can see the hair sculpted on the hobbit's feet. You look at the detail of his shirt and cloak. And then there's his face. Very nice dynamic pose. And then all the way up, I'm on my tippy toes trying to show you Pip, but there's Pip right there with a rock in his hand, looking for the next target to hit. Look at the mud on the trousers. There we go. And then the cape flowing down. And here are the branches that they're sitting on. Just really, really amazing. The likeness to Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan. Is it Dominic? What's his name? Dominic Monaghan? It is, right? Dominic Monaghan, right? So the thing about, Weta is that they do the monsters like Sauron, Balrog, Cave Troll, and the orcs. Of course, they do them second to none. They're amazing. Treebeard, for instance, right, is a creature, but their human likenesses have always been a little bit iffy. The original SciShow Weta days, I'm sorry, but they were just downright awful. But I think, over time, they've definitely improved. They've even used some translucent resin to really kind of bring it to the next level. I think the likeness of Merry and Pippin here are okay. They're not like drop dead amazing. Like I have an Isildur, right, statue, and Elendil, and they've done some really, really good likenesses. And the hobbits here are okay. You know, they're easily recognizable as Mary and Pip. Some good expression right over there, but you know, it's not the strongest likeness in my opinion. It's like a 6-7 out of 10, I would say. I mean, the hobbits are really the accents to this piece, but they're important accents. You know, it's an important part of the movie, and they've done justice to it. I really love, again, the sculpted hair on the feet for some reason. And all of this is sculpted polystone. They did a wonderful job with the folds of the cloak. Everything looks really natural. A lot of good detail. You know, again, you can see Pippin's scarf, you know, on all of that, his cloak. So there you go. And then if you pan out, you basically, again, see them on Treebeard walking. So you're meant to actually, I think, display him like this, where he's straight on. And from here, you know, he doesn't really look like he's leaning at all. He looks very, very natural. Probably not something you can avoid to show him walking in mid-stride. But if you go straight up like this, I think you can clearly see that this is just a little bit over. But then he seems to kind of correct himself. And Merry and Pip are right dead centered. So I think that this is just sort of part of the design. I'm going to turn him again. So while he's turning, we can enjoy the detail from sort of like mid-macro range, and then just sort of slowly pan up and just look all around while he's turning, while the turntable, the motorized turntable, is doing the work for me. And again, I hope you can appreciate how nice the foliage is and how important that foliage is to giving him, you know, that illusion of life. It's really important. It's a lot of work, I know, but it is really important to take your time and just keep on bending those 39 leaves using the heat gun, giving it a character, making Treebeard your own, especially back here with this mass of leaves. It just adds so much realism to this piece. And you know, you never have to, oh, here's some more mushrooms, nice and cute. And you're never really, you know, done with them. You can always go back, heat it again, move it a little bit again, over maybe many weeks to months, because again, of the fact that it originally came completely flat. Maybe it'll have memory and try to return to its original shape, and that's okay. Just keep on heating it and moving it, and eventually it will stay. Really, really loving the shot here of the rocks. Look at that. Look at the moss right here, and then of course, Treebeard's wonderful face. You can see the third eye right above his two eyes. That's from the knot in the wood. There are minute differences between him and the actual bust, which I own too, by the way. It's behind glass in a display cabinet. Maybe one of these days I'll take it out and we'll do a little bit of a Treebeard one-off, compare the bust and the statue. So just kind of moving up and down, nice and slow. Trying to concentrate on the top of Treebeard now, show the hobbits and what they look like as they're moving around, doing their dance, so to speak. Really nice. And then look at the little tiny shrubs on the top of Treebeard's head. Again, giving him so much character. Sorry if my voice is a little bit, comes in and out. I'm moving the phone a little bit away from me to really catch some of the details. yeah, and I have to say I was very fortunate that everything fit together, without too much struggle. Again, the hardest one was Pip. And I think I could have put Pippin probably into his slot a lot easier if he was just not as tall. But you can see how I'm struggling to film him. There you go. What's there really to say about a piece this magnificent? I mean, it's definitely, at this point, the greatest Lord of the Rings statue I think ever made. It's got so much complexity, so much design, so much detail. It's very accurate to the movie. It's got the hobbits, it's got everything. In my opinion, this is way better than, like, say, a huge like bust of the Balrog that Queen Studios put out, the Poda edition, which, don't get me wrong, is magnificent. And some of the stuff from Infinity Studios with their like life-size busts, and like the Witch King and some of the silicon half-scale statues are amazing. And of course the likenesses from some of the in art 12-inch figures are just mind-blowing. But to me, this is sort of the ultimate Lord of the Rings statue, the ultimate Lord of the Rings collectible. I'm sort of showing a little bit closer so you can kind of appreciate the detail, showing the half with the legs, and then I have to come up and show the top half with the hobbits, so that, again, you're able to catch the best of both worlds, both the detail as well as, the more panoramic view from mid-range. Look at the back. So yeah, I mean, just, 333. You'll see from my earlier stitched together videos, you can pause and read, the reasoning behind it. They made 333 to honor the actual day that, Isengard was liberated and Orthanc attacked, Saruman attacked. The third day of the third month in the third age of Middle-earth. Here we go. I mean, I can show you this guy turning forever, but an absolutely fabulous statue. I don't think I'll be going for the macro because I think this is such a beautiful distance. I really like the way it looks against the black background right here. And unfortunately, I can go macro, but it just gets really, it doesn't get blurry, but it gets a little bit, like, it gets a little bit grainy, right? Grainy is the term for it when that when that other camera gets involved. And I don't really want to do that for this piece. I think this is good enough, close enough to show you a lot of what I want to see, I want you to see. I'm going to be looking at it myself to enjoy it. I actually can't enjoy it, guys, because I'm trying to just move that phone all over the place. And so I don't actually even get to see what I'm shooting half the time. I'm on tippy toes, trying to get all these different angles for you, like all the way up, trying to show, what they look like from above. So I'll be watching it myself so I can actually see some of the footage I managed to capture and enjoy it myself, from certain angles and perspectives. See right here, it's still pretty sharp, not blurry yet. Not blurry yet. Haven't quite figured out exactly what the camera, focuses on. So I think after this, I will do one more cut, except I don't know how it's gonna work, but I'm gonna try to do one more revolution except I'm going to do portrait mode. And I've never done portrait mode reviews for the longest time. But I'm going to do portrait mode because for Treebeard, I think it really, lends itself to that, for better or for worse. So, you're seeing this landscape, all the detail, and I'm going to try to do portrait mode as well, just for a couple minutes, so you can kind of see him in its optimum way of being filmed because he's so tall. So these roots, just a very, very ingenious how they, what's the term? It's like, when they kind of turn the tree into a human being. Is it anthropomorphized or whatever? I'll have to check that. It's a kind of a complicated thing to say. Like in anthropology, it's like a derivative of anthropology. But, they did that, for this tree. So they actually created a tree that realistically walks and talks and has arms. I mean, that is quite a bit of stroke of genius, from the designer, the design team in general. Another thing that's kind of crazy about Treebeard that you notice when you have this statue and you're just able to admire it is that he really doesn't have much of a body. He's basically two huge long legs like tree trunks, and then two huge long arms, and then of course the big, Treebeard, right? The big bearded face, and then his trunk, the body is actually really, really short. Didn't really appreciate that until, of course, I put them together. A little side view. All right, well, I mean, I did my best, guys. First Treebeard review, to the best of my knowledge, on YouTube or the internet. It's gonna be one of my longest videos ever, actually. But again, hopefully for those who aren't able to get him, but who's curious about him, you're going to be able to finally, hopefully, just enjoy him. And it's not the same as owning him. I realize that, and it's always way more impressive in person. But I hope to have kind of given you enough shots and video to really kind of understand how amazing this is as a collectible, as a statue. I mean, while we're at it, I might as well just kind of bring in the OG Grail. This is like the new Grail, right? This is a new Grail, but this is like the OG Grail right here. And I mean, just take a look at how, can you compare how small the Balrog of Moria is compared to Treebeard? Just take a look at that for comparison. It's just completely crazy. So look at that. That's literally the difference in size between the daddy Rog and then Treebeard himself. So there you have it. I'm going to turn off the turntable for now. I'm going to bring him back into his preferred pose. All right, there you have it. Not very often that I'm sort of completely at a loss for words, but this is a great Treebeard. What a phenomenal work of art. And then next to him, Balrog of Moria for scale. After the cut, I will do this one more time, but in portrait mode, so you can kind of see him a little bit easier. And then we're gonna call this review done. See you then. All right, guys, welcome back. So this is how close I can get on portrait mode. And so I think you'll agree that, it's one of the rare circumstances where I think the video of the statue is better in portrait mode. You sort of have the lame, borders on the sides because, what are you gonna do? Most people like to watch YouTube videos in landscape, but I'm able to show you so much more. And this is sort of like the perfect height the perfect distance, I'm sorry, to kind of show Treebeard. So I wanted at least to be able to do that for you. So, for at least a revolution or two, we can just kind of have him turn. So again, you can just see how amazing he looks. It's hard on landscape because you're always, either too far back or you're just so close that you almost don't know what you're looking at. And so I didn't want to have that. So I wanted to leave this review with him again, filling your entire screen. So watch this part in portrait so that you can definitely, sort of appreciate him in all his glory. And understand just how incredibly huge he is. What a beast of a sculpture. Yeah, for all you Treebeard owners out there, it's kind of nice again, right, to have this on video so you can actually compare it to your own, check things out. And for future Treebeard owners, I hope that this series of videos is useful to you, because it was hard. You don't really have anything to go by, especially in how to put them together. The Flame of Udun's Treebeard thread was a lifesaver, but even that had its limitations. It just had pictures, was kind of confusing. It took a lot of effort, a lot of time. So hopefully the videos are going to make it a lot easier for others in the future. You don't have to read about the placement of the leaves. You know exactly where to go with them. And you can actually kind of see how the branches are put together. You can zoom in and pause at any time to check out, aspects of the statue that strike your fancy. And in real life, he's a lot darker. There's more shadow, from the overhead lights. Looks very, very good in real life. You don't have the artificial glare of the overhead lights or anything like that. So it's really, really good. This is definitely the way to shoot Treebeard. And then I'm going to just walk a little bit closer to kind of give you this, to give you this distance, so you get a little bit more detail. And then we can also get to see a bit more Mary and Pip. So here you're going to see the torso, the upper legs, or I should say thigh, I guess, of Treebeard. You can hear the motor churning along. It's not too bad. It's not too loud. I've heard way worse, way louder. Some of my older turntables. There you go. A really nice view of his back and sides, especially of all the different trees. Again, the plastic foliage that you're shaping and putting yourself. Wait for him to turn around again. And I'll go even a little bit deeper. Look at his face. And then there's Pip. And Mary. I'm trying to make this the definitive Treebeard review, so we can kind of see every aspect with every ratio, every distance. can see all the little leaves and trees. If you were to actually watch all of this, I think you would actually be able to see just on the video where every single one of the 39 leaves actually go. There's the back. On the subject of seam lines, I mean, obviously there are seam lines, but because he's a tree, I think they did it, reasonably well. I'm not going to complain too much. I think the most obvious seam line is definitely, Mary's. But this one right here, I mean, there's obviously a seam line right there. You can tell if you're looking for stuff like that. But overall, I think they did quite a nice job hiding it. And it's not, too ridiculous. He is a tree after all. You can't hide it. So I'm taking a step back now. And here we go again. This is him. All his glory. We'll give him one more turnaround, and then we're gonna finally end the review. So this took a long time. Definitely the most time I've ever spent on the review. Just so much time, putting him together, so much drama, so much trepidation, so many things that could have gone wrong. So I'm just kind of beyond grateful and happy that I was able to finally get this in my collection. And, in a way that's reasonable. Again, trading one grail for another, but the grail I traded was not quite as important to me as this one. I don't have quite the emotional attachment, again, to Silver Surfer as I do to Treebeard. And just again, going all out, getting the motorized turntable for him, like learning him so intricately. Like I could just see those leaves in my sleep. That's how long I spent working on them. I know where every single one of them goes. I'm actually a little bit too close. I have to actually take a step back to make sure that Pippin doesn't get cut off at the top. But you get the idea. All right, so I hope, for those of you who are into Treebeard, Lord of the Rings, Weta, I hope that this very, very long review, probably close to 2 hours, kind of fulfilled, sated your curiosity and, fulfilled your desire to really get up and close with, in my opinion, the absolute crown jewel of the Weta Lord of the Rings collection. I did the best I could to, make this truly detailed, everything from the assembly to the leaves, landscape mode, portrait mode, faraway view, close-up view, so you can appreciate, everything about this masterpiece. It's been an honor and a privilege to do that. And I have no illusions that there's going to be anybody who's going to sit through the whole thing. But again, I just hope that this is an opportunity to bring the beauty of the statue to so many people who are not able to get it, and to finally have this on on YouTube for public consumption, as well as hints for those who are lucky enough to own one and are building him or taking it apart, to have like a permanent visual record of where all those leaves are, how he comes together. I think is valuable. So there you have it. Maybe gonna take a little bit of a break before coming with another review. I think the next one up has to be the Dark Knight duel, Bruce Wayne and Batman from J&D Studios, and that's what I'm gonna be working on next. But until then, enjoy and do take care.